Hey, I'm Juniper-Quinn, and this is One Big Dark Room. Today, I'm going to go into a time of year that's quickly approaching, the holiday season, and all of its contradictions. For some people, it's lights and family bonding, and for others, it's a magnifying glass held over things that might be different. Growing up, the holidays were complicated for me. My parents divorced when I was 7, and suddenly the season that was supposed to feel magical turned into something I needed an assistant to handle. 2 houses, 2 versions of the same holiday, 2 families, both wanting time, both wanting to feel important. When I was a kid, I always felt like I was in motion, running from one place to another, trying to make everyone happy. Trying to be present in 2 worlds that didn't have much to do with each other anymore. Trying to perform for the family in a specific time frame, and it all had this quiet undertone. If I choose one house, am I hurting the other? And where do I actually want to be? That's something I want to talk about today. The way divorce, estrangement, and shifting family structures split the holidays. Because when a family separates, the traditions change with that separation. The rituals you grew up with suddenly don't fit. Sometimes you're celebrating 2 different holidays entirely. For me, I was trying to honor 2 different traditions during the same time. Sometimes you're trying to light a candle in one place while someone else is waiting for you to decorate a tree in another. And with the world the way it is right now, even naming certain holidays feels politically charged. There's this tension that can make it hard to even talk about what you celebrate or how you celebrate without fear of saying the wrong thing. I'm still navigating that myself. But I think the truth is this. Whatever traditions you come from, whatever holidays you honor, whatever rituals feel like home to you or used to feel like home, it's okay if they don't look the same anymore. It's okay if they feel complicated. My mom, who is a psych nurse, used to remind me every year that the holidays were one of the hardest times for people. She would tell me about how loneliness intensifies, family dynamics get even more complicated, and pressure of the season seems too heavy. We don't talk enough about the grief that hits out of nowhere, the missing people at the table, the traditions that quietly fell away, or the weight of choosing where to belong. We don't talk about the feeling of running around trying to make everyone else happy, or the pressure to be cheerful when you're exhausted or hurting. We don't talk about the shame of feeling lonely in a season built around togetherness, or the reality that mental health struggles don't pause just because the calendar says it's time to celebrate. I want this podcast to be about telling the truth in shadows so we can understand them. Later in the episode, I'll be going over ways to create new traditions, rituals, or grounding practices, things that make the holidays survivable or maybe even meaningful, even when the old traditions have fallen apart. I always heard that suicide rates increase around the holidays, but the data doesn't show a spike in suicide during those months. What does increase is crisis. People are more likely to feel disconnected, unseen, overwhelmed, pressured to be okay, the return of old grief, financial stress, the pain of family fractures, the ache of missing someone they can't see again. And those things mean a lot. Crisis lines experience increases in calls and messages during the colder months, and especially immediately after major holidays. Youth crisis contacts dip on the actual holiday, but then surge the next day. That crash comes once the distraction fades. And I felt that as a kid. When my parents divorced, the holidays split in half. 2 houses, 2 traditions, 2 families who loved me, but couldn't make it work together anymore. I spent so many years running from house to house, trying to make everyone happy. And when you're pulled in 2 directions like that, emotionally and logistically, it takes a toll. You feel like you're disappointing someone no matter what you choose. While I'm not a parent myself, I can imagine that the pain of the holidays can be just as heavy as from the kid's perspective. Because if you're a parent navigating holidays after a divorce, the emotional weight can be just as complicated, just as painful, and just as overwhelming. Parents don't just lose a partner or a household rhythm. They often lose the traditions they spent years building. The routines, the little moments you could depend on. Suddenly, there's a calendar to negotiate, a rotation to follow, a holiday you may or may not get with your child. There are presents you won't watch them open, and for many parents, there's the heartbreak of watching your child pack their bag and walk out the door to spend the holiday somewhere else. You want them to have a full holiday, but it still stings to realize you're only part of that picture now. There's guilt too. Guilt for the marriage ending, guilt for the disruption. And then there's the quiet moment of celebrating a holiday as an adult alone in a space where you used to celebrate as a family. But as parents, you're doing the best you can, trying to build something new with what you have. You're trying to give your kids a sense of magic even while grieving the loss of your own. Your effort matters, and your presence matters. This time of year is also filled with expectation. The holidays come with a list of certain steps we're supposed to follow. We're told that we need a decorated home glowing with warm lights, a big, perfect family gathered around a table, matching pajamas, carefully wrapped gifts under a tree, laughter in the kitchen, hot cocoa and holiday movies, a sense of togetherness, a sense of belonging. It's cozy and cinematic, and for a lot of us, it's just not real life. Traditions usually look like a long checklist: baking, decorating, traveling, hosting, planning, buying, wrapping, cooking, and everyone is obligated to feel joyful and connected through the whole thing. Then, of course, there's money. It's a season where people stretch themselves emotionally and financially, trying to keep up with an image that might not even fit their life anymore. But not everyone has a family the holidays expect you to have. Not everyone has the money, or the time, or the support system. Not everyone has the same people at their table as the last year, or a table that feels safe. Some of us spend the holidays alone because of divorce or death, estrangement or distance, or maybe because of complicated childhoods, or because the people we needed to show up simply didn't. Some of us grew up moving between different houses or feeling like we had to choose where to go. And that pressure steals the magic right out of the season. Some of us never had stable traditions at all. We walked into family gatherings with anxiety rather than excitement. Or maybe we have family we can't be around. Some of us don't have family at all. The holidays can shine a spotlight on the things we don't have instead of the things we do. And the traditions you rebuild, even if they look different now, can still be beautiful, grounding, meaningful, and full of heart. You're allowed to grieve the old holidays while creating new ones. Something else that makes the holidays so hard is something that affects so many people this time of year: seasonal affective disorder, or SAD. SAD is a form of depression that follows a seasonal pattern, usually beginning in the late fall and deepening through winter. It's connected to things like shorter days, less sunlight, disruptive circadian rhythms, and changes in brain chemicals like serotonin and melatonin that can cause things like low energy, heavier emotions, difficulty getting out of bed, feeling disconnected from things that normally bring joy, increased loneliness, and this sense of I'm slipping, but I don't know why. And SAD hits at the exact same time the holidays ramp up. While everyone around you seems to be decorating, gathering, celebrating, and posting their perfect traditions, you might be waking up each day feeling dimmer, slower, and more overwhelmed. The contrast of the brightness of the season against the heaviness inside can make everything feel worse. It amplifies a sense that something is wrong with you, when really it's biology, light cycles, and a culture that expects cheer on demand. So when you mix all the stressors we just talked about from the holidays with SAD, you get a season that's incredibly hard for a lot of people. The holidays can be beautiful, but they can also be heavy, especially when your brain is already struggling with winter. The emotional weight hits harder. For some people, the season feels like a storm they have to endure, not a celebration they get to enjoy. And that brings me to the Christmas I never expected to have. The one that happened 3 years ago when everything in my life fell apart right before Christmas Eve. Everything I thought my Christmas was going to be shattered. I was going through a really hard time already, and things were about to get much worse. There was no holiday spirit, no cozy traditions, no warm glow, just shock and survival, just trying to get through the next breath. Everything that was supposed to happen that Christmas didn't. Instead, I ended up staying with one of my closest friends. And honestly, I didn't know what I needed, and she probably didn't either, but she made space for me anyway. We stitched together a different kind of holiday, one that had nothing to do with perfection and everything to do with not being alone. We had this moment late on the night of Christmas where the smoke alarm went off for no reason. It just started screaming at us. Just two exhausted ladies in our PJs, one deeply traumatized, one trying to keep the ship afloat. We were looking in every corner to figure out where the beeping was coming from. It was one more thing, even though it was small, just to say, why is everything so loud right now? The next morning, the day after Christmas, she walked into the living room, looked at her giant, real Christmas tree, and said, I need all of this Christmas stuff out of the house now. So we got it out. The two of us dragging a full-size Christmas tree out into the backyard like it was a body we were hiding. Pine needles everywhere, almost like a post-holiday exorcism. Even in the numbness and in the shock, there were these tiny moments of life happening around me. Moments that weren't about the trauma, but moments that were about connection, absurdity, comfort, and being seen by somebody who cared. It wasn't the Christmas I should have had, but it was the Christmas that changed me. And it's the Christmas I'll never forget, because it showed me something that has stayed with me for the last 3 years. When life shatters the picture you thought you were going to live, you get to build a new one, even if the first attempts are messy, imperfect, or covered in pine needles. Looking back, that Christmas didn't fix anything. It didn't erase the pain or undo the trauma. What it did do is it showed me that traditions can break and still be rebuilt. That you can lose everything you thought the holidays were supposed to be and still find moments of connection, warmth, and safety in the unlikeliest places. It taught me that holidays don't have to look the way they used to. You don't have to force yourself into old traditions that no longer fit your life or your heart. You don't have to perform joy to make other people comfortable. You don't have to hold on to rituals that were built for a version of you that no longer exists. You're allowed to create new ones, to rebuild from where you are, not where you were. You're allowed to choose who you spend your holidays with, to choose how much energy you give, to make the holidays small, gentle, quiet, or different. You're allowed to let some traditions die so new ones can take their place. That Christmas, the one that wasn't supposed to happen, became the first moment I realized I could design the season in a way that actually felt like mine. Not perfect, not picture ready, not what we see on the Hallmark Channel, but authentic, safe, real. And that's what I want to talk about next. How to rebuild your own traditions, your own rituals, and your own meaning, especially when the holidays have hurt you. Traditions aren't just passed down, they're created, shaped by people, timing, circumstance, or by need. And just like people change, traditions can change too. After my trauma, I realized I couldn't go back to pretending the holidays were what they used to be. That version of my life was gone. I had changed. And for a while, I thought that meant the holiday itself was ruined forever. Rebuilding traditions doesn't have to look dramatic or symbolic. It can be small, quiet things like choosing who you spend your time with instead of who you should be spending your time with. Making a favorite meal, even if no one else eats it. Watching one movie every year that feels comforting. Taking a morning walk before the day begins. Decorating a little corner instead of the whole house. Setting boundaries you never used to set. Honoring the people you miss in your own way. And opting out of things that drain you. Sometimes the most powerful tradition is giving yourself permission to do the season differently. My traditions have taken a whole new shape recently. This Thanksgiving, I plan to start a new tradition for me. I'll load up the dogs, drive to a cabin in the middle of nowhere, and disappear for a few days. No crowds or pressure. No cooking for an audience. No forced small talk or pretending I'm fine when I'm not. Just me, my pups, the trees, and the kind of quiet you can actually breathe in. Instead of coordinating family schedules or trying to be everywhere at once, I'll make a big, comforting meal and eat it, then sit full and sassy on the couch. not a single expectation attached to it. There's no Black Friday chaos, no standing in lines, no holiday rush. I do all my shopping online anyway, and this time I can do it in my pajamas. Very unbothered. It's simple and it's peaceful, and above all, it's mine. Christmas, though. Christmas is the tradition I've become genuinely proud of. I take the dogs to a house near the beach and turn the week into my own personal retreat. I order a huge grocery haul so I don't have to leave the house if I don't want to. And my Christmas dinner consists of crab legs and mashed potatoes, one of my absolute favorite meals. The crab leg recipe is borrowed from a friend who's basically family, and using it feels like carrying a little piece of his family with me. A reminder that I'm not truly doing this alone. On Christmas morning, I take the dogs to the beach. They are not big fans. They act like the ocean is personally offending them, but it's become part of the ritual. A way to step into the day with intention, even if the pups are giving me side-eye the whole time. I have a sitter/friend who I meet up with for a holiday meal, and her son watches the dogs so we can go out. It's not traditional, it's not Pinterest worthy, but it's connection, companionship, and it's ours. Last year, I added a simmer pot to the mix, a little cauldron of citrus and spice bubbling on the stove, making the whole place smell warm and welcoming. You can keep it simple, or you can get full woo-woo with your intentions. I tend to land somewhere in between. And my favorite little detail is I bring a tiny Christmas tree and set it by my bed. Even though my Airbnb hosts are the sweetest hosts ever and always leave a Christmas tree waiting, plus homemade baked goods, that tiny tree feels like a necessity, something that marks the season as mine. It's not the Christmas I grew up with. It's not the Christmas I once imagined I'd have. But it's a Christmas that feels like home in the way I need home to feel now. These traditions don't replace everything I lost, but they give me something new to look forward to, something peaceful and something safe, something that honors where I've been and who I am now. So if you're listening to this and thinking, okay, but how do I even start creating my own traditions? You're not alone in that thought. Rebuilding the holidays can feel overwhelming, especially when your old traditions were tied to people you've lost, families that are broken, or versions of yourself you don't recognize anymore. But creating your own traditions doesn't have to be big, elaborate, expensive, or look like a viral photo. It just has to feel like you. Here are some starting points. Start with what brings you comfort, not what looks holiday appropriate. Maybe it's a favorite meal, a movie you always pick to go back to, a scent, a long walk, a cozy blanket you save just for this time of year. If it soothes you, use it. Let your traditions be small. Micro traditions are still real traditions. Light a candle at the same time each Christmas Eve. Buy yourself an ornament each year. Make one specific dessert every Thanksgiving. Take a photo in the same spot. Choose who you spend your holiday with. Friends, pets, chosen family, or just yourself. You don't need a house full of people to have a holiday. Solitude can be sacred. Friendship can be family. Your pets can be your little holiday crew. If big gatherings overwhelm you, create a tiny holiday instead. One meal, one activity, one outing, one memory. Quality over quantity every time. Borrow from people you love, whether it be a recipe, a song, a tradition from a friend's family, a story someone told you. Incorporating these pieces can make you feel connected, even when you're celebrating on your own. Make your space feel like the holiday you want, not the holiday you think you're supposed to have. A mini tree by the bed, a garland over the door, a simmer pot bubbling on the stove, a wreath on the wall, or maybe nothing at all. Your space is yours to design. Create rituals tied to your healing, not your pain. Write a letter to the version of yourself who survived. Burn intentions in a bowl or a fireplace. Set a theme or word for the new year. Give yourself permission to opt out. Skipping an event is a tradition too. Not traveling is a tradition. Resting is also a tradition. You're allowed to choose peace over performance. And let your traditions evolve. What you need this year may not be what you need next year. Traditions aren't meant to trap you, they're meant to grow with you. Start one thing, just one. One ritual, a meal, a moment. If it feels right, keep it. If it doesn't, let it go. That's how your personal holiday season begins to take shape. I focus mainly on Thanksgiving and Christmas so far, but a holiday that comes right after is New Year's. It's been a few episodes since I've shared a trauma story, so I think it's time to share another. If Thanksgiving was chaotic and Christmas was painful, New Year's became complicated. It wasn't just one bad year, it was a theme, a thread, something that always felt off center, off balance, or overshadowed. And it started with the very first time I was engaged. The engagement I talked about back in my first episode. We had only been dating for 3 months. Yep, only 3 months. And even at that age, even as young as I was, I had that feeling in my stomach that said, slow down. But sometimes the wish to be loved can drown out the wisdom your body is trying to give you. It was New Year's Eve. I knew he was taking me to the Melting Pot, which was my favorite restaurant at the time. And I had a feeling something might happen. So I did the whole thing you do when you're in that headspace. I picked out a special outfit. I got my hair and makeup done professionally. I was ready for a romantic moment, something meaningful, something memorable. And it was memorable, all right, just not in the way I had hoped. We drove downtown and pulled into the parking garage. But the moment the car stopped, he realized he didn't have his wallet. And instead of taking a breath and solving the problem, he exploded. A full meltdown. Everything, the date, the evening, the plans, were suddenly ruined in his mind. He wanted to sabotage the whole thing out of frustration, out of inconvenience, out of a mistake that he made. I remember sitting there in that dingy garage under that awful fluorescent lighting with my heart pounding, watching the man that I was supposedly building a life with unravel because of a wallet. And then he pulled out the ring. Right there in the car, in that stale box of concrete. He looked at me and said, "Will you be my wifey?" First of all, and I cannot stress this enough, ew. Second, this was the moment. This was the proposal. The aggressive meltdown in a parking garage. I was shaking, not out of excitement, but out of shock and embarrassment. Out of knowing on some deep level that this wasn't how it should feel. I can't even remember what I said in that moment. My brain just kind of blanked, went into survival mode. He could tell I wasn't feeling it because when we got back to my apartment, he decided to try again. He set up candles, played my favorite romantic songs, re-proposed in a way that felt more like what he thought a proposal should look like. And I said yes. Because I was young, because I didn't know how to stand up for myself yet, because I wanted so badly to believe in the fairy tale. Looking back now, that moment, that parking garage, the ring, that word, it was the beginning of my long, rocky relationship with New Year's. It was the first time the holiday felt tainted, off, wrong. A place where hope went to die a little. And unfortunately, that pattern continued. But as the years went on, and especially after the trauma I went through recently, I realized something. New Year's didn't have to stay tied to that version of me. It didn't have to be a day stamped with old pain. I could rebuild it, just like I rebuilt Thanksgiving and Christmas. And that's when I discovered the Raunekta, this old spiritual tradition from European folklore. The 12 nights between Christmas and early January, a liminal space, a threshold, a pause between years. I loved the idea that these nights weren't about parties or pressure or forcing yourself to be celebratory. They were about reflection, releasing, dreaming, letting the old year fall away so the new one could enter gently, intentionally. And over time, I began to make this my own ritual, something soft and witchy and grounding that helped me reclaim New Year's in a way that felt safe. If you've never done this ritual before, here's a very simple way to start. Gather 13 pieces of paper. Small squares are fine, nothing fancy. On 12 of them, write a wish, intention, or desire for the coming year, just one per page. You don't need to overthink it. The 13th, you can choose to leave blank or you can write something else down. Fold all of the wishes and place them somewhere safe, a bowl, a jar, or a little box. You're not supposed to know which wish is which. It's a part of trusting the universe, part of letting go of control. Each night, from December 25th to January 5th, light a candle, take a breath, pull one folded wish, burn it safely without reading it, release it to the universe. That wish becomes something the universe works on for you. The final 13th wish, the one that's left at the end, the one that you did not burn, is the wish you take responsibility for in the new year, the one you nurture, the one you step towards deliberately. Add whatever rituals feel good to you. A simmer pot, if you want to infuse intention in that. Journaling dreams, cleansing your space, pulling tarot cards, taking quiet evening walks, writing letters to your future self, or simply resting. For me, this ritual did something important. It gave me a new way to begin again. A way to enter the new year without feeling fear, without old ghosts dragging behind me. It allowed me to honor the girl in the parking garage who didn't know she deserved more, honor the woman I've grown into, honor the life I'm still creating, and for the first time in a long time, New Year's doesn't feel cursed. It feels reclaimed. Thank you for spending this time with me today. The holidays can be complicated and heavy, and if you made it through this episode, you already have something to go on. Your experience matters, so do your traditions and your healing. The way you move through this season, whether quietly, defiantly, creatively, or completely non-traditionally, is valid. I hope this episode brought you clarity or a sense of being understood, and I hope you carry that with you into the coming weeks. And if you're building new traditions or making space in ways you never have before, I hope you feel proud of that. It's not easy, but it's real, and it's yours. Thank you for being here with me. Happy holidays, and as always, stay familiar.